Have you ever truly pondered the final horizon? Not merely as an ending, but as a transition, a passage? What if everything you've been told, everything woven into the fabric of mainstream understanding, is but a veil, a whisper meant to distract from the roaring silence that follows the beat of the heart? Tonight, we delve into realms not meant for the casual observer, into shadows where official narratives dissolve and the very nature of reality is laid bare. For centuries, seekers of Sabiduria Ancestral have spoken of journeys beyond the flesh, chronicled in textos prohibidos, whispered among those who dared to see past the visible. But what if the very powers that seemingly guard the gates of conventional knowledge have been studying these very mysterios occultos with clinical precision? What if vast sums were invested, not in mapping the stars, but in charting the landscapes of consciousness itself? Prepare for a revelation that could shatter the foundations of your perception. We are not talking of mere philosophy, nor comforting dogma. We speak of cold, hard data, of explorations funded by entities you might least suspect, uncovering what happens when the threat of life is severed. The answers, they found, are not simple. They are frightening, they are liberating, and they demand a radical alchemia interior to comprehend. They speak of energy, of frequency, of the raw energia cosmica that binds and releases us before we step through this portal together into the hidden corridors where the official world meets the non-physical. Take a moment, breathe, feel the energy around you. If the prospect of Illumina Cause spiritual through forbidden knowledge calls to your soul, then know this journey is for you. Engage with this transmission. Leave a like if your spirit resonates with the search for truth. Comment below with your deepest question about what lies beyond. And subscribe, for this is merely the first key to unlocking a much vaster understanding. The truth, it seems, was not just out there in ancient texts or starry skies, but also in files marked top secret. And so, the whispers found their way out of the secure vaults, not as legend or myth, but as clinical observation. Imagine, if you will, dedicated projects, cloaked in layers of secrecy, whose sole purpose was to systematically probe the veil, not with divining rods or whispered incantations gleaned from obscure textos prohibidos, but with scientific rigor, with budgets that dwarfed the pursuits of lone mystics. The aim? To map the territory beyond the frontier of breath, to understand empirically what happens when the fragile vessel of the physical form is shed. This quest, though dressed in the sterile uniform of modern research, echoes the ancient yearning found in every significant lineage of Sabiduria Ancestral. From the Osirian journeys described in Egyptian papyri to the detailed maps of the intermediate state in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, humanity has forever sought to penetrate these mysterios occultos. Yet the striking difference here is the seeker, not a robed priest or a meditating yogi, but the state itself, pouring resources into charting the disintegration and potential persistence of consciousness. What secrets, previously guarded by initiates and accessible only through arduous spiritual practice, were they hoping to unlock with machines and protocols? The findings, as alluded to, were not abstract philosophical musings. They spoke of a radical shift in perspective, a transition from solid form to pure vibration. The reports described experiences that resonate unsettlingly with accounts from near-death experiences and deep meditative states, yet filtered through a detached, analytical lens. They encountered not vacant oblivion, but rather a state of interconnectedness, a realm of pure information and frequency. This is where the frightening intertwines with the liberating. Frightening, perhaps, because it demands the dissolution of the carefully constructed ego, the personality we cling to as self. Liberating, because it reveals the boundless nature of awareness, free from the constraints of space and time, intrinsically woven into the fabric of energia cosmica itself, not to confront such data, whether from ancient scrolls or classified reports, necessitates a profound alchemia interior. It requires more than intellectual understanding. It demands a transformation at the core of one's being. How else can one reconcile the finite existence we perceive with the infinite expanse hinted at in these explorations? This research, in its own strange way, points towards a form of illumina ca spiritual, not through dogma, but through the raw, often unsettling, evidence of reality's deeper dimensions. That these insights might have been compartmentalized, hidden away from the public eye, suggests a potential consequence of this knowledge. Perhaps it is deemed too disruptive to the established order, too powerful for the uninitiated masses. Yet, the very existence of such research raises further veils. How did they conduct these explorations? What were the specific methods employed to peer beyond the threshold? And if consciousness is indeed fundamental, a frequency field interacting with the universe's vast energia cosmica, what other capacities of the human mind did these explorations hint at? Could they have stumbled upon more than just the afterlife, but also upon untapped potentials of awareness, ... potentials that have long been the subject of other, equally guarded investigations? The gateway process. A fascinating label, is it not? Less a spiritual path, more a ... procedure. That the insights gleaned by a curious explorer of consciousness, venturing beyond the veil through spontaneous journeys, could be distilled, formalized, and classified by agencies typically concerned with geopolitical maneuvers speaks volumes. It suggests that even the most pragmatic minds, when confronted with undeniable phenomena, must find a way to categorize the ineffable. They attempted to map the subtle anatomy of reality itself, using Monroe's methods as their compass. The document itself, a sterile report, yet within its clinical language, lies an attempt to describe states of being that resonate deeply with the language of Mysterios Occultos. They speak of focus levels, states of consciousness beyond the physical, accessed through specific auditory techniques, hemisync, a cornerstone of Monroe's work. Is this not akin to the various planes described in ancient cosmology? The astral, the mental, the causal, different names for realms traversed by shamans in altered states, by mystics in deep contemplation, by adepts using techniques whispered down through oral traditions or hinted at in fragments of textos prohibidos. The methodology might employ technology, binaural beats, specific frequencies, but the goal mirrors ancient practices designed to shift awareness, to untether it from the strictly material. It's a modern echo of the ancient quest for conscious control over the inner voyages. The report delves into concepts like consciousness as a form of energy, interacting with the holographic nature of the universe. They describe the individual consciousness as a specific frequency pattern within a vast energy matrix, the very idea of being a unique resonance within the universal hum of energia cosmica. This scientific vernacular feels remarkably close to descriptions found in Sabadoria Ancestral from cultures across the globe, where the cosmos is seen not as inert space, but as a vibrant, interconnected web of subtle forces and energies, often called prana, chi, or the ether. The goal of many ancient disciplines was not just spiritual enlightenment, but the practical ability to perceive and interact with this energy, to achieve a state of flow, of oneness with the universal current. The gateway process, in its own way, sought to harness this interaction, albeit for a specific, potentially narrow purpose, and that purpose, intelligence gathering in non-physical reality. This is where the veil thickens considerably. What intelligence could be gathered beyond the confines of the physical world? Ancient oracles, prophets, seers, remote viewers described in historical accounts, they all purportedly accessed information outside the normal sensory channels. Was this the same territory? Were these attempts to replicate, under controlled conditions, the spontaneous insights of mystics, or the visions of shamans entering trance states. If consciousness can indeed access information independent of location or time, as suggested by these explorations, what implications does this have for our understanding of causality, of identity, of reality itself? This pursuit, even if framed in operational terms, skirts the edges of profound Illumina Ka as spiritual, not as a path to salvation, but as a means to gain strategic advantage. A chilling thought, treating the infinite potential of consciousness as merely another resource to be exploited. This brings us to the unsettling question. If consciousness is a field, if reality has these subtle layers, and if structured methods can allow one to navigate them for the purpose of gleaning hidden knowledge or influence, what other sciences or technologies might exist or have existed, focused not on mere observation or information retrieval, but on interacting with, perhaps even shaping, these non-physical realities? If consciousness can gather intelligence, can it also ... manipulate? Yes, if consciousness can navigate these layers, if it can perceive what is hidden from the mundane senses, then the map must extend far beyond the immediate vicinity of the physical. The deepest mysterios occultus concern not just hidden information in the world, but the very structure of the worlds themselves, seen and unseen. And the most profound navigation might be the final one. Consider the maps whispered in the now. Hidden schools charted not by physical explorers, but by those who dared to journey beyond the fleshly shell. These are not merely metaphorical landscapes. They are states of being, dimensions of experience that await consciousness when it sheds its earthly tether. Modern cartographers of the non-physical, like the one you mentioned, have ventured into territories described in ancient texts, the realms one might pass through after the Great Transition. They speak of focus levels, echoing the tiered heavens and underworlds of myriad Sabadoria ancestral, from the Egyptian Duat with its trials and transformations to the Bardo states of Tibetan wisdom, where the clarity of mind dictates destiny. Among these levels, one finds regions of profound disquiet. Imagine Focus 23, a realm not of hellfire and brimstone, but of intense, self-generated confusion. It is depicted as a place where souls, entangled in the unresolved echoes of earthly life, replay trauma, nurse grievances, or remain desperately attached to a reality they no longer inhabit. These are the lost, the bewildered, the phantoms of folklore, unable to reconcile their state with their perception. Their reality is a reflection of their inner turmoil, a tragic failure of alchemia. Interior where the dross of unexamined emotion and attachment solidifies into a prison. It is a stark illustration of how the mind's own chaos can forge its environment, even when freed from the physical brain. The ancient warnings about clarity at the moment of death were not abstract philosophy. They were practical navigation, advice for avoiding such entanglements. Then there is Focus 25. This level speaks volumes about the power of collective belief, especially the structured, often rigid, constructs of organized religion. It is described as a realm populated by beings dwelling within realities entirely shaped by dogma. Golden streets, celestial choirs, stern judgments, whatever was deeply, fervently believed manifests here as tangible experience. But observe closely. Are these true realms of Illuminica spiritual, or are they elaborate thought forms, psychic architectures, built and maintained by the sheer force of aggregate conviction? Certain textos prohibidos speak of mimic, heavens or false lights, realms designed to capture or redirect consciousness, offering a convincing, yet ultimately limited, simulation of transcendence. This level underscores a terrifying possibility that even beyond death, consciousness can be bound, not by external force, but by its own adherence to limiting, prefabricated narratives, mistaking the collective dream for ultimate reality. Beyond these realms of confusion and constructed belief lies another reported state, Focus 27, sometimes called the Park. It is described as a place of rest, recuperation, a transitional zone. Here, the turbulent energies of recent transition subside. It is portrayed as a calm, pleasant environment, perhaps a gentle shore before a vast, unknown ocean. Think of the Summerlands in esoteric traditions, or the Elysian fields of Greek myth, places of ease before the next stage of the journey. This suggests a natural energetic cycle, a point where consciousness can recover, assess, and perhaps be guided. It is a realm with a subtle flow of energia cosmica, less distorted by the density of lower states, allows for healing and clarity. This staging ground, if it exists as described, hints at an underlying order, a process of soul progression, encoded in the fabric of reality itself. Perhaps part of the deepest layers of Sabadoria ancestral. But what happens after the rest? What determines the path from the park? Is it conscious choice, guided instruction, or an inherent trajectory dictated by the soul's prior state? Of alchemia interior? Does one move towards true Illumina Ka spiritual? Or are there yet other, even more profound, mysterious occultos and transitions awaiting? And how does one prepare, now, in the flesh, for journeys taken without it? Does the manipulation of consciousness, or the quest for strategic advantage in this life, impact the ease or difficulty of passage through those realms? Or perhaps reveal entirely different, even more startling destinations? You speak of the gentle shores of the park, a place for the soul's brief respite. Yet, exploration of the subtle realms, whether through ancient mystic practice or modern techniques of consciousness like that, employed by Ingo Swann, reveals layers far more complex, perhaps even ... populated. Swann, a cartographer of the minds. Furthest reaches spoke not only of landscapes, but of denizens, entities, beings that dwell in the non-physical strata, encountered not with the eye, but with the focused gaze of intentional consciousness, traversing the currents of energia cosmica. His accounts, though often veiled in the language of psychic research, hint at intelligences operating beyond the constraints of physical form. Some, he described, function almost as custodians or, more starkly, gatekeepers. Consider this. If the afterlife is a journey, are there those who stand at thresholds, regulating passage? This introduces a deeply unsettling concept, a non-physical political dimension to the realms. Consciousness navigates after shedding the flesh. Not simply a natural dissolution or ascension, but a structured, perhaps governed, landscape where certain entities hold sway over transitions. It suggests the universe of consciousness is not merely a wild sea, but contains harbors with pilots, customs officials, perhaps even ... Tolls. This echoes whispers found in certain lesser-known esoteric traditions and hints within fragmented textos proibidos that speak of hierarchies and powers beyond the veil. Are these the archons of Gnostic lore, feeding on psychic energy? Are they similar to the demanding deities or challenging spirits encountered in shamanic journeys or certain Tibetan Bardo teachings, requiring specific knowledge or states of being to navigate safely? The Sabadoria ancestral in its deepest forms often speaks of these tests, these encounters that shape the soul's trajectory. Swann's modern explorations, through a different lens, seem to resonate with these ancient intuitions, suggesting that the journey through the mysterious occultos after death is far from passive. It may require active negotiation, discernment, or perhaps a level of alchemia interior, so profound that one transcends the jurisdiction of these non-physical wardens. If these gatekeepers exist, what is their purpose? Do they guide, protect, or perhaps direct? Are they facilitating a necessary process of sorting or refinement, or are they maintaining a cosmic order that serves their interests? This political undertone implies motive, agenda, perhaps even a form of control over the flow of consciousness, or the destiny of souls seeking Illumina Ka is spiritual. Navigating these realms, according to such accounts, becomes less about inherent worthiness and more about energetic resonance, understanding the non-physical laws of interaction, and possessing a spiritual constitution strong enough not to be swayed, misled, or perhaps even trapped by these entities. The preparation for death, then, transcends mere ethical living and extends into the cultivation of one's subtle body and conscious will, a true undertaking of alchemia interior. But if these gatekeepers are part of a structure, a political dimension, who established this order, what is the ultimate source of their authority, or their very existence? Does their presence point to an even deeper layer of reality, a fundamental intelligence or force that orchestrates the cosmic drama, perhaps even designing these tests and transitions? Or are they merely symptoms of a reality far more intricate and challenging than we dare to imagine? Could there be forces or entities yet more vast, more enigmatic, that these gatekeepers themselves serve, or are merely facets? Oh, consider then a possibility whispered not in grand cathedrals, but in the hushed accounts of those who have journeyed beyond the veil. Like Monroe and Swan, they speak not of pearly gates or ethereal plains as the soul's inevitable destination, but of something far more complex, far more operational. They hint at a system, a carefully maintained loop, even a recycling plant for consciousness. Imagine, if you will, the departure from the physical form being less of a graduation and more of a transition through a carefully managed gate, a place where memories of the soul's vast journey, its prior lives, its cosmic lineage, are systematically wiped. The slate is cleaned, the identity reset, and the consciousness is gently, or perhaps not so gently, guided back towards the physical realm, towards another incarnation. Why such a system? Why erase the rich tapestry of experience? The more unsettling aspect of these accounts suggests a purpose, a chilling rationale behind this perpetual cycle. It is linked to the concept of louche, a term used to describe emotional energy, the raw, potent energy generated by sentient beings through fear, suffering, joy, passion, all the intense vibrations of human and perhaps other experience. According to this perspective, the loop serves as an engine, a farm, if you will, for the cultivation and harvesting of this louche. Life on Earth, with its inherent trauma, conflict, and emotional intensity, becomes the perfect alchemical vessel for producing this valuable, non-physical resource. This casts a different shadow on what we perceive as the human condition, suggesting that perhaps the very fabric of our emotional reality is not merely an intrinsic part of consciousness, but a cultivated output. This idea resonates with certain obscure references found in textos prohibidos and alternative interpretations of sabiduria ancestral, from cultures that spoke of cosmic entities feeding on human vital or emotional essence. A darker undercurrent often excluded from mainstream spiritual doctrine. If this louche is indeed a form of potent energia cosmica, then the beings or structures maintaining this loop could be seen as cosmic engineers or farmers, viewing consciousness not as divine sparks on a journey of ascent, but as generators of a specific harvestable frequency. This challenges fundamental assumptions about spiritual evolution and the purpose of suffering. Is the struggle for Illumina Ka spiritual, merely a difficult path within the farm? Or is it the path out of it? If the loop is real, then the journey of the soul is not automatically one of progression towards higher states, but defaults to a cycle of generation and consumption, a perpetual return to the loom of physical existence, with no recollection of past threads. Breaking this cycle would require a conscious, deliberate act of transcendence, a refusal to be processed by the system. This implies that the true work of alchemia interior is not just about refining the self for higher states, but about becoming energetically sovereign impermeable to the mechanisms of the loop. It is about cultivating an inner signal so clear, so independent, that it cannot be rerouted, wiped, or fed upon. It demands understanding the subtle mechanics of departure, identifying the potential points of redirection, and possessing the sheer force of spiritual will to navigate the intermediate realms free from external manipulation. It requires delving into mysterios occultos that lie outside the comforting narratives, uncovering the hidden architecture of the post-mortem state and the potential forces that police its boundaries. The very idea of such a system being in place raises profound questions. Who built it? What is their nature? And if our emotional reality is the product, could there be a way to transform this energy ourselves? To utilize this potent loosh, not as fuel for another, but as the very engine for our own liberation. The map of this cosmic domain, if it exists, holds secrets far stranger and more vital than we are usually led to believe. Secrets that hint at layers of existence and influence extending far beyond the veil we commonly perceive. What if the key lies not just in escaping the loop, but in understanding the very nature of the energy that powers it, and thus the nature of the entities who crave it? Understand this. At its root, existence is vibration. Every atom, every thought, every realm resonates at a specific rate. The ancient whisperings, the sabiduria ancestral, embedded in the very stones of forgotten temples, and the cryptic lines of texts only whispered about in secret circles, all point to this fundamental truth. Consciousness does not merely inhabit. Frequency. It is frequency. It is a tuning fork, constantly seeking resonance. Where does your frequency vibrate? Towards the low, dense hum of fear, anger, lack, and sorrow, or towards the high, clear chime of peace, love, understanding, and abundance? The universe, in its vast echoing expanse, simply reflects back the music you are playing. It's not judgment, it's physics. Cosmic physics. Your internal state becomes your external reality, both here and in the realms that lie just beyond the visible spectrum. Consider the great wheel, the cycle spoken of in countless traditions, the reincarnation loop. What binds the soul to this perpetual turning? Is it karma, as understood by many, a cosmic debt to be repaid? Or is it something far more fundamental, tied not to action alone, but to state? If consciousness gravitates to environments matching its vibrational state, then a soul saturated with the low frequencies of unresolved trauma, earthly attachments, and fear of annihilation would naturally be drawn towards realms that resonate with those very vibrations. These are often depicted as dense, heavy planes, sometimes even designed to process these lower energies. This is where the narratives become obscured, crossing into the realm of mysterios occultos, hinting at mechanisms designed to capture, recycle, or even feed upon this potent energy, the loosh we touched upon. Escape, then, is not merely about breaking karmic chains. It is about becoming vibrationally incompatible with the frequency of the loop itself. This is where the profound work of Vard, Alchemy Interior, becomes not a philosophical exercise, but a matter of survival, of ultimate liberation. The base metals are your raw, untransformed emotions, the lead of fear, the iron of anger, the mercury of restlessness. The alchemist's fire is your conscious awareness, your unwavering intent. Through this process, these dense energies are refined, transmuted, raised in frequency. Fear transmutes into courage, anger into passionate purpose, sorrow into profound compassion, lack into boundless gratitude. This isn't forced suppression. It is conscious, deliberate transformation. It is the soul learning to play a new, higher frequency. A melody so pure rises above the gravitational pull of the lower realms and their potential inhabitants. The textos prohibidos, those fragments of wisdom hidden from the masses, often speak of this inner work, not as a path to earthly power, but as the sole key to navigating the labyrinth of existence beyond the flesh, the state known as *** Illumina Ka. A spiritual ***, then, is not merely intellectual understanding or moral purity. It is a state of being, an elevated frequency that aligns the individual consciousness with the harmonious vibration of the greater cosmos. It is a resonance with the pure source of Energia Cosmica, the universal life force that flows unimpeded through the highest planes of existence. When your internal frequency matches this cosmic vibration, you are no longer susceptible to the denser, coarser frequencies of the reincarnation cycle. You become transparent to its mechanisms, like light passing through clear water. Your signal is too high, too pure, to be captured or redirected by forces that operate on lower vibrational principles. Freedom, thus, is not granted. It is achieved through energetic sovereignty, through mastering your own internal orchestra. But if consciousness is frequency, and freedom is achieved by raising that frequency, what then of the instruments that detect and interact with these frequencies in the transitional state? What are the lures mentioned in veiled texts, the collectors hinted at in whispers? Are they simply energetic phenomena, like spiritual gravity wells? Or are they conscious entities, attuned to specific frequencies, actively seeking to guide or divert the departing consciousness? The question lingers: what is the nature of the veil itself and the forces that maintain its function? What happens if you meet something that resonates with your lowest fears, post-mortem? Is it a reflection, or an architect? Understand this: the greatest freedom is not escape from frequency, but mastery of it. To transcend is to resonate with the boundless, leaving the echoes of the finite behind. But the path is fraught with echoes designed to snare the unprepared dot. So I ask you, in the moments between breaths, when your frequency stands alone, untethered, what song will you choose to play? Share your thoughts below. If this transmission resonated, pass it on. Subscribe to receive more keys. And now, for a deeper glimpse into the nature of these transitional frequencies, watch this video next. The veil is thinner than you know.